The buzz around Jimmy Kimmel's trajectory in the late-night world has sparked a firestorm, with Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly stepping into the ring to deliver a verbal takedown that feels less like a roast and more like a cultural autopsy. The air is thick with questions about what happened to the comedian who once thrived on irreverence, only to seemingly trade his edge for a polished, network-approved persona. The critique isn't just about Kimmel, it's about the state of comedy, media, and the invisible strings pulling the strings behind the scenes. Rogan and Kelly, each with their distinct style, have zeroed in on Kimmel's transformation, exposing a deeper malaise in the entertainment industry where authenticity is swapped for applause and humor is diluted into sermonizing. Let's unpack this spiral, a messy collision of comedy, ideology, and corporate influence that's as revealing as it is brutal. Once upon a time, Jimmy Kimmel was the guy you'd expect to see hosting a kegger, not a moral crusade. His early days on The Man Show were a masterclass in unfiltered, boundary-pushing comedy, crude, irreverent, and unapologetic. He was the court jester of late-night TV, slinging jokes that hit like a punch you didn't see coming. Fast forward to today, and Kimmel's a different beast. He's traded beer bongs for sanctimonious monologues, positioning himself as Hollywood's high priest of virtue. The shift hasn't gone unnoticed, and it's drawn the ire of two cultural heavyweights, Joe Rogan, the podcast titan who thrives on raw, unfiltered truth, and Megyn Kelly, the media scalpel who cuts through hypocrisy with surgical precision. Together, they've painted a picture of Kimmel as a symbol of something larger, a comedy landscape that's lost its nerve, neutered by corporate agendas and cultural conformity. Rogan's critique is visceral, rooted in a sense of betrayal. To him, Kimmel isn't just a late-night host who changed his tune, he's a fossil from an era when comedy had teeth. Rogan, a man who's built his empire on being the unfiltered everyman, sees Kimmel's pivot as a surrender to the sanitized, applause-hungry world of modern media. Back in the day, Kimmel was the guy who'd make you laugh until you choked on your drink. Now, he's delivering pre-approved punchlines that feel like they've been vetted by a focus group. Rogan doesn't mince words. Kimmel's transformation is a betrayal of the chaotic, messy spirit of comedy. It's like walking into your favorite dive bar and finding it's been turned into a juice cleanse emporium. The vibe is gone, replaced by kale shots and motivational posters. For Rogan, it's not just about Kimmel's jokes losing their edge, it's about the comedian abandoning the very unpredictability that made him electric. Consider Kimmel's recent forays into cultural commentary. His monologues often lean into moral grandstanding, tackling issues like politics or social justice with the gravitas of a TED Talk speaker. Rogan, who thrives in the unscripted chaos of his podcast, smells inauthenticity a mile away. He points to moments like Kimmel's response to Elon Musk's tongue-in-cheek pronouns tweet, where Kimmel fired back with a quip about Musk's pronouns being ass and hole. It was a flash of the old Kimmel, sharp, quick, and a little mean. But the backlash was swift. Critics on social media called it transphobic, chiding Kimmel for daring to joke about pronouns. Rogan finds this absurd, not because he's picking a side in the culture war, but because it highlights the suffocating self-censorship creeping into comedy. The moment a comedian has to second-guess a punchline, the game's already lost. Kimmel, once a rodeo bull of comedy, now seems to clutch a moral compass that always points toward the safest applause. Kelly, on the other hand, approaches Kimmel with a colder, more calculated lens. While Rogan mourns the loss of a comedic soul, Kelly sees a sock puppet for a media machine that thrives on selective outrage. To her, Kimmel's shift isn't a betrayal, it's a strategic rebrand. He didn't evolve, he pivoted, reading the cultural weather and swapping his jester's cap for a sheriff's badge. Kelly's critique is less about comedy and more about the hypocrisy baked into Kimmel's reinvention. This is the guy who once hosted a show celebrating crude humor and scantily clad women, now preaching morality from a pulpit built on those very antics. Kelly doesn't buy the redemption arc, not because she doubts Kimmel's sincerity, but because it feels like a calculated move to align with network values. Hollywood doesn't applaud Kimmel because they believe he's virtuous, they applaud because he's useful. He's a team player, delivering the right kind of outrage at the right time, all while conveniently forgetting his own past. Take the Kennedy Center honors, where Joe Biden fumbled names like Dionne Warwick, calling her Diane, and Barry Gibb, calling him Billy. Kimmel, set to host the Academy Awards again, operates in the same ecosystem that shrugs off these gaffes while elevating its own. Kelly points to the irony. ABC, Kimmel's employer, once fired the Bachelor host Chris Harrison for daring to suggest a contestant's past attendance at an antebellum-themed party might be judged by the standards of its time, not today's. Meanwhile, Kimmel, who once opened the Oscars in full blackface as part of a comedy bit, gets a pass.
Why?
Because he's aligned with the right narrative. Kelly sees this as emblematic of a media double standard. One set of rules for those who play ball, another for those who don't. Kimmel's not just surviving in this system. He's thriving, a lead soprano in the choir of performative virtue. The numbers tell a story, too. Late-night TV isn't what it used to be. The Daily Show, once a juggernaut under Jon Stewart with over 2 million viewers, now scrapes by with 366,000. Seth Meyers limps along at 778,000, a dismal figure for network television. Kimmel's not faring much better, averaging 1.5 million viewers, a far cry from the glory days of late-night dominance. Compare that to Greg Gutfeld, whose cable show pulls in double Meyers' numbers despite requiring a paid subscription. The audience is dwindling, and Rogan and Kelly argue it's because the soul of late night has been gutted. What was once a chaotic, unpredictable space for laughter has become a sanitized echo chamber, churning out toothless punchlines and pre-approved politics. Kimmel, as the head babysitter of this padded playroom, embodies the shift. His monologues feel less like rebellion and more like corporate emails, polished, predictable, and painfully safe. Rogan's frustration stems from a deeper place, the death of risk in comedy. He remembers a time when comedians pushed boundaries, made you squirm, and occasionally forced you to rethink your assumptions. That era feels like a distant memory. Now, every joke comes with a disclaimer, every punchline pre-screened for ideological correctness. Rogan, who's never shied away from controversy on his podcast, sees Kimmel's transformation as a microcosm of this broader decay. The comedian who once thrived on irreverence now guards the very lines he used to cross. It's not just that Kimmel's jokes have softened, it's that they've become sermons, delivered with a straight face and an applause sign. Rogan's not asking for Kimmel to be crude again. He's asking for authenticity, for a spark of the raw, unfiltered energy that once defined comedy. Instead, he sees a man who's traded his edge for a velvet safety net, peddling jokes with a side of moral superiority. Kelly, meanwhile, zeroes in on the machinery behind Kimmel's act. She's not interested in his comedic past. She's dissecting the present, where Kimmel's every move feels like a carefully calibrated performance. His emotional monologues, his flashes of outrage, they're not spontaneous, they're shrink-wrapped for maximum impact, optimized for trending tabs. Kelly calls it what it is, sincerity via focus group. The media loves a redemption arc, but only if the redeemed stay in line. Kimmel's get-out-of-jail-free card isn't stamped with remorse, it's stamped with loyalty to the narrative. He's not just a comedian anymore, he's a brand, aligned with the values of a network that thrives on selective outrage. Kelly's critique is sharp. Kimmel's not preaching because he believes it, he's preaching because it pays. And Hollywood, ever the opportunist, keeps clapping as long as the optics are good and the numbers are decent. The irony is thick. Kimmel, once a boundary pusher, now plays it safe, delivering press-scripted outrage with the precision of a corporate spokesperson. Rogan and Kelly don't just see a comedian who's lost his way, they see an industry that's forgotten how to laugh. Late-night TV, once a bar at 2 a.m., chaotic and unfiltered, now feels like a team-building seminar hosted by someone who used to be fun. The audience isn't laughing anymore, they're clapping, pretending what they're watching is comedy and not a confession. Rogan swings at this with a sledgehammer, mourning the loss of a raw, honest voice to studio polish. Kelly cuts deeper, exposing the calculated reinvention of a man who's morphed just enough to dodge the next outrage wave. Together, they form a cultural commentary dream team, one smashing with raw energy, the other logging evidence with clinical precision. This isn't just about Kimmel's fall from grace, it's about what he represents. The late-night world he inhabits has been bleached, perfumed, and shrink-wrapped for the algorithm. Risk has been replaced by routine, bite by branding. Rogan looks at this and sees clones in matching suits, recycling the same jokes, the same politics, the same toothless punchlines. Kelly sees a system that rewards conformity over creativity, where morality is optional but loyalty is non-negotiable. The result is a comedy landscape that's less about laughter and more about claptor, applause for saying the right thing, not the clever thing. Kimmel, once a rebel, now stands as the poster child for this shift, a comedian who's traded his edge for a seat at the table. The roast, if you can call it that, didn't need a stage. Rogan and Kelly didn't RSVP, they just glanced at Kimmel's act and called it what it is, a sitcom without a script, a sermon with a laugh track. The punchline isn't funny, it's tragic. Comedy used to challenge the powerful, mock the absurd, and make you laugh through the discomfort. Now, it's a vehicle for preaching, a platform for signaling virtue while dodging accountability. Kimmel's not the worst offender. The Daily Show and Seth Meyers are bleeding viewers faster, but he's the most visible, a lead actor in a comedy no one laughs at anymore. Rogan and Kelly didn't just drag him through the mud, they exposed the scaffolding propping up his entire act. And they did it with disappointment, sarcasm, and a perfectly timed side eye, the kind of ridicule that smirks instead of screams. So, the next time Kimmel climbs onto his moral high horse to lecture America about the dangers of mean tweets or bad politics, pause. Ask yourself, is this comedy or just a commercial for the latest cultural trend? The jokes used to be the point, now they're just packaging for the sermon. Rogan and Kelly aren't asking for Kimmel to go back to his crude roots, they're asking for something real, something that doesn't feel like it was cooked up in a boardroom. Because when comedy stops challenging and starts brunching with the powerful, the punchline isn't just flat, it's a tragedy. Welcome to the roast that wrote itself, where two critics, one hollow brand, and a cultural autopsy remind us, laughter used to mean something. Now, it's just another product on the shelf.